This is Sadi Aleph. And the Mishnah had the case. Good morning. The Mishnah had the case about the woman who got married with the testimony of one aide, and we said that we made a lot of consequences in order that she should do her own investigation, and she could get married, but if she's wrong, and at the end the husband does come, so then what we call the Mishnah doesn't say that expression that we'll see it today, and a list of about 14, 15, something like that, consequences that will happen if the husband indeed was alive. After the Mishnah had the whole list of things, so then it had a machlokes of Yossi or Rav Shimon, and they argued on some of the points. Rav Yossi said that she does get ksuba, and Rav Elazar said that the findings, the earnings, and to nullify the vows is still in the husband's jurisdiction. And Rabbi Shimon said that there is yibum to the husband, to the brother of the first husband, and also the children with the first husband will not be mamzerim. So that was back in the Mishnah before, that three Tanoim argued about three different issues. Not exactly three, because Rabbi Yossi said 1 point about ksuba, Rabbi Elazar said 3 points, maybe the unit about mitzia and ma'aseh dayim and aforos nedorim. And Rabbi Shimon argued on 2 things about and about mamzer. If you learn the Mishnah plain, we would assume that each one only says what he means. It means each one says, this is what I argue with. Rabbi Yossi argues on this point, Rabbi Elazar argues on these points, Rabbi Shimon argues on these points. But for some reason, the Gemara takes it that some agree that the 3 Tanoim that are arguing on the Tanna Kama, there's Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Shimon. So either everyone, as you go down the list, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar is agreeing to Rabbi Yossi, and he also says even more. Rabbi Shimon goes further and says even more. Or the way is going to be Rabbi Yossi holds of all these things, and then Rabbi, all these different machlokesim, and Rabbi Elazar goes down only what he says, and not Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Shimon goes down even more. So in the Mishnah, Pashtan in the Mishnah, you wouldn't say that, but the Gemara understands that there is some agreement over here. And the Gemara, just to zoom out a second, there are 2 opinions coming up. It's not on the screen. Okay, thank you. I should have made some kind of a chart, but I didn't have time to do that, but it's not so difficult. Just to hold in mind that the Mishnah before, maybe we can go back to see the Mishnah. Maybe that might help a little bit. A couple of pages ago, beginning of the parak. Here's the Mishnah in the beginning of the parak, Aisha. So we had first a whole list of things, and then we had Rabbi Yossi, and then Rabbi Elazar, and then Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yossi said that ksuba, she does get. Rabbi Elazar said that the first husband still holds on to her findings, her earnings, and aforos nedorim. Rabbi Shimon said that there is a yibum, and also ein avlat mamzer from the first one. So we would have thought that Rabbi Yossi says what he holds, and nobody agrees with him. Rabbi Elazar says what he holds, and nobody agrees with him. And Rabbi Shimon holds what he holds, and nobody agrees with him. But the Gemara says 2 possibilities. Either Rabbi Yossi says what he says, that there's ksuba, and Rabbi Elazar agrees to him and says even more. Also, mitzia, ma'aseh dayim, and aforos nedorim, and Rabbi Shimon agrees to all that and says even more. Or the opposite is Rabbi Yossi holds all of these exceptions that they're arguing on the Tanna Kama. Rabbi Elazar says, I don't agree to ksuba, but I do hold of mitzia, ma'aseh dayim, and aforos nedorim. And Rabbi Shimon says that I don't agree to anything what you said. There's no ksuba, and there's no mitzia, and but I do hold that there is yibum and ein avlat mamzer. Let's continue the Gemara's discussion. If it's going that the earlier ones, kamoy, the earlier ones agree to the later ones, but the later ones don't agree to the earlier ones, or the later ones agree to the earlier ones, and the earlier ones don't agree to the later ones. That's going to be the Gemara's discussion. And I don't really know why the Gemara takes any one of these. Why not say each one says what he holds only? But the Gemara assumes that that's what's happening over here. Tanna Kama.
Are you recording?
Yes.
I think he's recording.
Yes. Okay, so we'll go back to the Gemara now, to our page, Sadi Aleph.
So it starts with Rabbi Yossi.
Where are we? Sadi, one more, I'm making too much. Yeah, and it's going back to get the right page. Okay. So just to zoom out a second, just to see the highlightings. So there's a Rav Huna and there's a Rav Yochanan. Rav Huna says Basroi modul kamoi kamoi lo modul Basroi. That the later Tana means Rav Yossi, then Rav Elazar, then Rav Shimon. So the later ones, as you go further, they agree to the previous ones. But the opposite, the previous ones don't agree to the later ones. It means if you have Rav Yossi, Rav Elazar, and Rav Shimon, so Rav Elazar, Rav Shimon agrees to what Rav Elazar and Rav Yossi said. Rav Elazar agrees to what Rav Yossi said. That's called Basroi Modul Kamoi. The further down you go, they agree to the ones previously, but the previous ones don't agree to the later ones. So Rav Yossi doesn't agree to Rav Elazar, Rav Yossi and Rav Elazar don't agree to Rav Shimon. That's Rav Huna. You can call Machavus was calling that like most of Holach, that you go more and more. Rav Yossi says one thing I argue with, Rav Yossi says I agree to that, and another thing, two things I argue with, and Rav Shimon says three things I argue with, and Rav Yochanan is going to argue and say the opposite. Kamoi model basroi, basroi lo model kamoi. The first ones agree to what the later ones say. Means Rav Yossi holds like Rav Yossi, Rav Elazar, Rav Shimon. Rav Elazar just holds not like Rav Yossi, only Rav Elazar and Rav Shimon. And Rav Shimon only holds what he says. He doesn't hold neither Rav Yossi nor like Rav Elazar. So this is all a question of which things we're arguing on Tanakama. Tanakama had a whole big list, and we're arguing on some points. So which points are we arguing on? So here goes the Gemara. Rav Huna. The earlier ones, Rav Yossi agrees to the later ones. Sorry, the later ones agree to the earlier ones, but Kamoi lo modul basroi. What does that mean? Rav Shimon is the last one. Rav Shimon agrees to everybody before him, the Rav Yossi and Rav Elazar. Rav Shimon modul Rav Elazar because he says Ma via the ikri yisura lo kanis because came mitziasa umaisia the mamono. Rav Elazar, Rav Shimon is the one who said that there's yevum. He allows yevum. He allows yevum to the brother of the first husband, and that's like serious to make yevum, to make a bia. So if he holds like that, then surely he's going to also say that the marriage is still by the first one as far as Mitzia and Maisa Daim, which is only momentous. The first one, the Rav Shimon is talking about to be able to permit to be able to do a Maisa Bia. If he permits that, and he says that it's still the husband of the husband of the first is the husband. So too, Kal V'chomer, by things that only have to do with money, he's going to still consider that a marriage that it goes to the first husband. But Rabbi Elazar even though Rabbi Elazar says that the money, the findings, the earnings that it goes to the first husband, but is not going to allow to do a Maisa Yibum. It's also Maisa which is only momentous, who low kanas. That's why he doesn't say that the kanas takes away the marriage. That he agrees the marriage is still there. But to say that you're allowed to do Yibum, I will be a disuru kanas. Over there, he's going to make a kanas that there should be a to do biyah. So this was about Rav Shimon and Rav Elazar before him. And how about the first one, Rav Yossi, with the Vayim Model Rav Yossi? And both of them will agree to Rav Yossi that she does get ksuba, because I need the Yasva to say lokanis. Because king ksuba de lemishka lo mepakoi. There's more reason to allow her to give her the ksuba because the ksuba is what a woman gets when she leaves. It's on the way out, on the exit, she gets the ksuba. The other ones are things that make the marriage, that she's considered married. The fact that there's Yibum means that she's considered married. The fact that there's Metzia and Maisia Daim, a person that means that it's bonding. It's showing that the marriage is a marriage bond. But the Ksuba doesn't show it's a marriage bond so much the fact that it's on the exiting out. But Rabbi Yossi, he only holds what he says by himself. Rabbi Yossi lo modelahu. He doesn't agree to the other things about Maisia Daim and about Yibum. Ksuba de mishkal mepaku de lokanis. Abalhani the Yasva to say kanis. The Ksuba he says that she gets because it's just to take and leave. Take and leave. There he allows her to still get ksuba because she's getting out. But the things that show that she's still married, that he's not going to allow. So that was the svara of Rav Huna to say that the further you go, they're adding on. They're adding on to Rav Yossi, but Rav Yossi, the earlier ones don't agree to the later ones. The later ones do agree to the earlier ones. And now the Gemara is going to say the opposite svara, that it's possible to hold that Rav Yochanan Amar Kamoi Model Basroi, that Rav Yossi will agree to Rav Elazar, Rav Shimon. Rav Elazar will agree to Rav Shimon. But the opposite, Basroi Lo Modul L'Kamoi, the ones that I mentioned later don't agree to the earlier ones. Rav Elazar is not going to hold up Rav Yossi before him, and Rav Shimon is not going to hold up Rav Elazar and Rav Yossi. I think what's going to say opposites for now. Rav Yossi Modul later Rav Elazar. Rav Yossi said she gets ksuba. He also agrees that the husband gets the findings and the earnings and the notification of the vows because ksuba the mididei lokanis. The kolshkein mitziyasa the ksuba is coming from him to her. So that, again, Rabbi Yossi, because the kolshkein, he even allows her to get ksuba, that she's getting a benefit. We want to make a class, we make a penalty, a fine, to the consequences. So the consequences that she should lose. the same Ma'aseh Yadayim and Metzias, that people mentioned this, that over there, you're saying that it does go, she does get it. You're saying that you're making a penalty, but the penalty is going to say that the husband does not have rights on her things, her findings, her earnings. So if Rabbi Yossi holds that she even gets ksuba, which is giving from him to her, he didn't give a knas, and he allows her to get ksuba, so Kal V'chomer is going to say that Mitzia and Ma'aseh Yadayim the that's from something that's from her that's supposed to come to him. So he surely what? He's not going to give a knas, and he will allow the husband to keep it. Means the svara is that if there's more reason by Mitzia and Ma'aseh Yadayim that if you don't make the knas, that means that she loses out. If she don't make the knas is, if you say the knas, that means that usually a husband gets the findings and the earnings. If you make a knas and he doesn't get it, so she gets it. That's that you want to do that. So if Rabbi Yossi gives her ksuba even, so then Kal V'chomer he's also gonna allow. He's giving her a present. Chomer, he's going to make the knas in Mitzia and Ma'aseh Yadayim by making the knas. What is he saying? That she gets it. That make the knas. Am I saying right? That he's going to agree not to make the knas, and he is going to keep the findings. Means there's more reason over there that you break the marriage. If he even allows the ksuba to go to her, am I saying logical? That if he allows her to get ksuba,
and he's going to allow also to capture
that the husband can keep the earnings and the findings. Rabbi Elazar lo modile, mitziasa Ma'aseh Yadahu de medida l'didei lo kanes, avol ksuba de medidei l'dida kanes. Rabbi Elazar says that he doesn't agree to give the husband the findings and the earnings. He's making it difficult for her. But in the case, you're going to say that she should get ksuba, you make it easy for her. So he won't hold that direction. And then the Gemara goes further to Abai Modile Rav Shimon. Both of them do agree to Rav Shimon, who says that is allowed to do yibum. The things that they spoke about, getting ksuba, and what was the next thing after ksuba about Mitzia Ma'aseh Yadayim, those are things that are in the lifetime. If and his case of yibum was after death, that he says that you could do that there is yibum. So if they hold, they hold that even things that are in the lifetime, we don't make the knas, then Kal V'chomer, we're not going to make the knas after death. Rab Shimon only by bia lachamisa lo kanes, avol the mechayim kanes. Rab Shimon is the one who says only what I say, because yibum is after death, so they don't care not to make the knas. But the things that are during the lifetime, we do have to make the knas in order to make that the marriage should be separated. We don't want to recognize the marriage as things that have to do with the lifetime. So that's the machlokas of Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Shimon, which things they argue on the Tanakama. I think the pashas will be, we do pass like the Tanakama. I didn't look into all the points, but the pashas, I think, if we go back to the Mishnah,
Like Rav Huna or
not like anybody. Maybe if you pass them like Tanakama, then there's no exceptions at all.
Oh.
Is that we're holding? Where's the Mishnah over here? From the numbers over here, it sounds like we don't pass like Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, or Rabbi Yossi. We pass like the Tanakama. But the question was, between these three Antanoim, are they agreeing to each other? In which way are they agreeing to each other? Okay, next again. So then the Mishnah said, the way we explained the Mishnah, that all this was talking about if she got married with one witness. One witness, then we said we make a lot of consequences in order she should do her investigation. But if the husband comes back, she has a lot of problems. But if she got married without special permission of Bezin, which means she had to wait them. So then if the husband comes back, she can go back to the first husband. That's why we pass that if there would be two Adim that said that the husband died, even if later on the husband came back, she could say, go back to the first husband. It wasn't her fault. Why are you stealing? That means, why being so secretive about it? He learns the Mishnah that the one who said the statement of this Shlomo. So if you look at the Mishnah, instead of scrolling back the whole time, just the Mishnah just finished saying Rab Shimon. Rab Shimon just finished talking about the point about Yibum and the point about Mamzer, and then it says this is Shlomo if she had two Adim to get married with, so then we don't stop her from going back to the first husband. The question is who's talking over there? Who's the one who said the statement? We could learn the Mishnah that it's not Rav Shimon. Everyone's talking already. That if she got married with two Eidim, she's allowed to go back. But Rav Nachman says no, it's continuation of Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon is the one who's talking. And therefore, he says, you're making it sound like very innocent. You make an innocent statement, you pass like that. It's not so innocent. You pass like Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon is only a Das Yochid. And it could be that you don't pass like him. Just to say that that's the halacha, it makes it sound like it's simple. It isn't so simple. It's Rav Shimon who's talking. Why are you being so secretive? Why are you being secretive and stealing? If you hold like Rav Shimon, say so. Say the halacha is like Rav Shimon, because your Gemara is like Rav Shimon. It means you're going to Rav Shimon, and he's the only one who said that if she get married with two Eidim, she's allowed to go back to the first husband. But it's not so simple. You might say, I didn't say like that. If I would just say Allah is like Rav Shimon, you might think also as far as the first halacha about that, as far as when there's one aid, so Rav Shimon said that there's Yibum and the Vlad is not a mamzer. You might think that I passed like Rav Shimon and everything that he said. No, you should have been explicit. You could have said specifically, he passed like Rav Shimon as far as the second thing that he said, as far as two Eidim. So Rav Nachman is coming to say that it's not so simple, and your psak, that you pass like Paskin, that if there are two Eidim, she may go back to the first husband, is only Rav Shimon talking. He passed like Rav Shimon against the Rabban. The Rabban don't agree. That was what Rav Nachman said. He doesn't say Beferish that he argues, but he says that your psak is only according to Rav Shimon. And the one says kasha. That might be a kasha. How come Rav didn't say the lach is like Rav Shimon? But now the Gemara continues. He also has kindness on the statement that's mentioned in the name of Rav. Rav is the blue, and then in the pink is Rav Nachman, who's saying that you're only saying according to Rav Shimon. It's not so simple. And Rav Sheshes is also arguing on the blue, on Rav, but he's saying that in favor of the statement, saying that Rav, if he says Allah like that's the Allah, it sounds like somebody's arguing. But he's saying the contrary, nobody's arguing. The first time Rav Nachman said that it's only Rav Shimon talking, and they're going to argue. And Rav Sheshes is saying the opposite, that everyone is talking, and there's pressure that's the Allah because nobody argues. What? Amen. I said, when Rav was sleeping, he said what he said. So it sounds like an insult, but the Chafetz Chaim brings down from somebody that is a respectful way to say something. Like Rav is so smart, he wouldn't have said such a thing. He must have been very tired when he said it. But in other words, he's saying that the statement doesn't make sense. That Rav should say that Hachi Hilchasa doesn't make sense because, of course, nobody argues. Allah Mithal the Pligi. If you say Allah, it sounds like somebody's arguing, but nobody's arguing. It's almost the opposite of Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says that it's only Rav Shimon talking, and the Rabbanan do argue. And Rav Sheshes is saying nobody's arguing, and there's no reason to say Allah because nobody argues in the first place.
I'm sorry, if he said it when he was sleeping, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
No. Okay, it's saying that he made a mistake. It's a mistake.
It's like when people are sleeping.
They don't say good things.
I thought their secrets come out.
That
means he really means it.
No, it means when he's sleeping that he's not thinking straight.
Okay.
It could be when a person, it says when the Gemara says when a person is drunk, maybe the truth comes out, things like that. But here the Gemara means to say that he's not thinking straight. When a person is drunk, also he doesn't think always straight.
So why did you say it means he's going along with it?
No, he means to say that he's saying that I agree with it, but I agree with it so much that it's not necessary to say that's the halacha because nobody argues. I'm just coming to point out that if Nachman is skeptical if it's true, and if Sheshes is so sure that it's true that you don't even have to say halacha, because halacha means that there's a machlok, there's an apaskin one way. But if nobody argues in the first place, you don't have to paskin. And that's what Sheshes is saying, that it's so true that nobody argues. Halacha, if you say halacha, that sounds you can derive that somebody's arguing. Nobody's arguing. And why is nobody arguing? My hevel mebad, my and sansa. What could she have done? If two Eidim come and say that the husband is dead, what could she have done better? So surely she's an onus. If she got married, she's had no reason not to get married, and surely she can go back to the first husband because she had every right to get married. She's considered an onus if the husband comes back. That's the point that Rav Sheshes was saying, that nobody can argue on this point, that no one can argue on this halacha that if she got married with two Eidim that she can go back because she's an onus. So that's to map out the Gemara a second. The Gemara, besides Rav Sheshes saying this far, I just made this in green. Rav Sheshes said, so what could she have done as an onus? He also has a second point to prove it from a brisa. Now I just made parentheses just to show that it's a different subject. The old Tanya, he brings a brisa. He's going to bring two brises, the two blue brises, and he's going to show from the combination of both brises that it's the Rabbanan must agree. It's not only Rav Shimon, the Rabbanan also must agree that if she got married with two Eidim, she's allowed to go back to the first husband. And then the Gemara is going to refute the proof that he brought from the two brises. And Ahmed Beis is going to go about 5 lines down. And then the Gemara is going to go back to the first thing that he said, that Ma'ayav Alolam Mebad. That's going to be at Ahmed Beis. Yeah, just to point out, just to analyze it, there are 2 points that Rav Sheshes said. One is that Nobody argues because my Evad. What could she have done if she had two witnesses that said that she can get married? The husband died. So what could she have done? That's going to be a sugya number base. The Gemara is going to question if that's true. This far, my Evad, what could she have done? Is it considered an honest? Like Misfara alone, Misfara.
Okay, but we did have this in Spora. I thought we said she better be very careful.
That's by two. That's by one aid. By one aid, we said
That's
that
by
one aid. By one aid, we say that one aid is not really enough to get married. It's only one
And
aid.
that's when all those.
We're going to make a lot of consequences, and you do homework, and then we'll rely on it. But by two Adim, we don't tell her to do any homework. And she's an honest because she has two Adim. The Torah says you can trust two Adim. Two Adim came and said
So that
that,
should even be stronger than a base time, than the shoes of the base time.
yes, as far as this goes, that by the Bezdin only says, we're going to give you permission because we trust you're going to do an investigation.
Oh,
And if you
right,
don't,
right,
there's a lot of consequences. But by two Adim, you don't ask the Bezdin. You don't have to have a special permission. It's just that she has two Adim. Two Adim, the Torah trusts always. And therefore, what could she have done? Man is answer. It's considered an onus if the husband comes back. What should she have done? And that the Gemara is going to deal with the base. The Gemara is going to have a long sugya if that's true or not. Do you say what could she have done? And therefore, we're not going to make all these consequences or not. But till we get there, there's going to be a different raya of an oath that Rav Sheshes brought a raya from a brisa, a combination of two brises, to also show that it's not only Rav Shimon who's talking, but even the Rabbanan also agreed that if there were two Eidim that said that the husband died, she's allowed to go back to the first husband. So we're going to come back to this thing of Mahabalol Mevad and Amad Beis, but now we're going on a different route. The Old Tanya, first wide line. So he brings two brises, and with the combination of both brises, he thinks he has a proof that it must be the Rabbanan agree that if there were two Eidim that said the husband died, she's allowed to go back to the first husband. What is saying the brisa? The first brisa says, any erva that a woman had relations with, she doesn't need a get from him because the marriage is not a marriage at all. There was no marriage to arise. Someone had relations with he had a marriage with a sister. So he doesn't need a get from no, she doesn't need a get because there was no marriage in the first place. I'll be Bezdin. That's the end of the brisa. One exception, a married woman that got married with Bezdin's permission.
And that means there could have been one.
Right, beautiful.
So
That means it's one
would
aid.
mean
That if
two
you have
aids,
to
even-
right. So
she does
beautiful. The brisa says the only case where you need a get is only if it was she got married with the testimony of one aid, and we could deduce, as Leib Yaakov said, Al Pi Bezdin who the boy get, Al Pi Aid no boy get, that you only need a get if there was Al Pi Bezdin means there was only one aid and you needed Bezdin's permission. But if it would have been two aid, then you'd only Bezdin's permission. She doesn't need a get. But that's not enough of a proof yet to prove what we're saying, because for sure the Mishnah says that. The question is who's talking? Is it only Rav Shimon or is it even the Rabbanan? We know for sure that there's such a Mishnah. That's what our Mishnah says. This is Shlo B'Shus. It's in the yellow over here. This is Shlo B'Shus. She goes back to her first husband. But the question is who's talking? Maybe only Rav Shimon's talking. Rav Nachman said only Rav Shimon's talking. Everyone will argue. Rav Sheshes wants to prove that everyone holds like that. So it's not enough of a proof yet. He has to have more in order to make it a proof. Mani. Who's the author of this brisa? Even Rav Shimon. Al Pi Bezdin mi boy get. He wants to prove that this brisa is not Rav Shimon, it's only Rabbanan. That'll be a good proof that even Rabbanan hold that she doesn't need a get after she was if she had two Eidim to get married with. How is he going to disprove it? That it can't be Rav Shimon. How is he going to prove that it's Rabbanan, not Rav Shimon? Because he holds that Rav Shimon would argue even on what it says. Means if she got married with one aid, does she need a get? She got married with one aid and the husband came back. Does she need a get from the second husband? So our Mishnah says that she does. That's the Mishnah. 25 things, 15 things. And Rav Shimon doesn't argue in our Mishnah. But he thinks he has a raya from a brisa that Rav Shimon does argue.
If it was 180, you wouldn't need to get.
It would not need to get. Even if it's case where there's one aid, also would not need to get. Against our Mishnah, which is a little strange because our Mishnah, Rav Shimon argues on the Mishnah, in our Mishnah, and he says that she does Yibum and the Vlad is not a mamzer, but he doesn't argue on this point. But the Rav Sheshes thinks that he has a brisa coming up, the second brisa, he had a blue brisa over here, that he thinks it's going to say that according to Rav Shimon, you don't need to get even if she got married with one aid. If that's true, if
But she can't go back to the first husband.
that's the question. The Gemara thinks that it depends on, it goes on each other. That if she does not need to get from the second husband, she could go back to the first husband. The Gemara puts it together. Taisus points this out, that the Gemara's logic, the whole subject is that she go back to the first husband. And the Gemara thinks that that's a brisa that says that she does not need to get from the second husband. That's equal to saying she can go back to the first husband. The Gemara equates them. Taisus has kasha on that, he has the answer, but that's the Gemara's equation. That if she does not need to get from the second husband, she can go back to the first husband. So we have a brisa that says so. The brisa is meduik like that because it says the only case you need to get is if she got married with Bezdin, which means one aid. but we can be medayik if there are two Eidim, she can go back without a get. And the Gemara is going to prove that's Rabbanan talking, not Rab Shimon, because Rab Shimon argues even in the case of one Eid, because he would hold that she doesn't need a get, even if she got married with one Eid. Because Rabbi Shimon, I'll be Bezdin, me boy a get. If she got married with one Eid and she had a Bezdin giving her permission, does she need to get from the second husband? But Tanya, here's the Brisa. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Asu Bezdin Bar Asan, Kizdon Ish Bisha, Kama, Al Pi Eidim, Kishiki Gas Ish Bisha. Rabbi Shimon says, very, very, very ambiguous statement. Rabbi Shimon says Chazal made that if Bezdin did according to their psak, means they permitted a woman to get married because of their psak. They made that like a man who was amazed with a woman. If she got married with Eidim, not with Bezdin B'Hor Asan, so then they made it like a man who had relations with a woman, B'Shogeg. So the words are a bit ambiguous. We'll take it how the Gemara seems to explain it. The Gemara seems to say that Rav Shimon said, if Bezdin permitted a woman to get married, which means that there's only one Eid. Whenever you say Bezdin permitted, it means only was one Eid.
Yeah.
So they considered that like a man who had relations with a woman, B'mezid, Kizdon Ish B'Isha.
What does that mean?
If a man had relations with a woman, no, of course she wasn't. Of course she wasn't amazing. Of course the Bezdin said she can get married, but they consider it if the husband comes back and really she was an Eshes Ish, so they consider it like it was an act done b'mezid. What does that mean? As far as what?
And if it was done b'mezid, it means that's news.
Right, that
And she wouldn't need to get from that guy.
Oh, so you're jumping to what the Gemara is going to talk about if they need to get or not. The Gemara is going to say that in a second. Just the Gemara continues. The Brisa continued that if she
then she can't even go back to the first husband.
also true. So we're not going to say all that.
Yeah.
But if
Al Pi Eidim.
but of course Al Pi
Eidim, which
Eidim,
means there were
there were two Eidim.
two Eidim.
So then they
Then it's
consider
like a
it
shogeg.
Shigigas Isha B'ish.
And if it's shogeg, then it means it was like shogeg is sort of like ones.
Which 1 second, which Moshe, I said not to forget about. What you said is good. That she got married with her was Bezdin means that it's considered if that was one aid and Bezdin permitted her, then it's like Zod and Ishbish, and you said that she's not allowed to go back to the first husband. And you're right, that's true. That she cannot go back to the first husband.
And shogeg should be able to.
But if it was Al Pi Eidim,
Right. Yeah, you do.
then it's like Shigigas Isha B'ish, that was only B'Shogeg, and she is allowed to go back to the first husband. That's true. That's good, and that's true.
Yeah.
But the Gemara wants to deduce from this, both cases, both if it's going to be a man who had relations, the Eshes Ish who had relations with a man, B'Mezid, or B'Shogeg, both of them, either vidi, lo boy get. We know that what would be the case? What would be the halacha? A woman, she had relations with a man, married woman, had relations with somebody, intentionally, unintentionally. Does she need a get from that man?
No.
Neither case. It's false nus. Either it's nus B'Shogeg, nus B'Mezid, but there's no get.
Right.
So that's what the Gemara wants to say. Shimon, in both of these cases, he holds that you don't need a get.
Because if it was Al Pi Eidim and it was b'shogeg, then she also wouldn't need because
She goes back to.
Because that's halacha of nus b'shogeg. Nus b'shogeg does not need a get.
Right.
A woman had relations with a man. She didn't realize it wasn't her husband. It was dark. She didn't realize, and she had relations with another man. And then she finds out that it wasn't her husband. Does she need a get from him? Doesn't need a get. And the
so
Gemara
either
says
way she doesn't need a get.
either way. So now, that comes out
And
that
it says in this Brisa it says Rabbi Shimon.
Rabbi Shimon's talking. Rabbi Shimon says that Al Pi Eidim is Keshikigas Isha B'ish. And the Gemara thinks that we could deduce from that he would argue on our Mishnah and say that a woman who got married with, I'm sorry, not only the case of Al Pi, we'll come back to the first case. I want this case. I want the case of Bezdin B'Hor Asan, Kizdon Ish Isha. That if it was Haraz Bezdin, that's the point we're looking at. That if there was one aid, Bezdin permitted her to get married because there was a testimony of one aid, they consider that like a woman who had relations intentionally, a married woman had intentional relations with a man, and she's not allowed to go back. She's not allowed to go back. But does she need a get?
No.
So she does not need a get. So
it sounds like he would.
Sounds
Yeah,
right.
sounds like he goes against that. She wouldn't need a get.
Right, even though the mission said she does need a get, Rav Shimon said she does not need a get. So this first brisa, not the first brisa. Who's the author of the first brisa? It can't be Rav Shimon,
Can't
because
be
here
Rav
it says that nobody needs a get except for Eshes Ish and Issas Al Pi Bezdin, which means with one aid. But Rav Shimon doesn't hold that. Rav Shimon doesn't hold that she needs a get if she got married with one aid. We proved that from the second
He said
brisa.
that would be called Mezid.
Right, and the Mesa does not need a get.
Yeah.
So who's the author of the brisa? It must be not Reb Shimon. So you see, it's not Reb Shimon talking. And even the Rabbanim who say that she does need a get if she got married with one aid, but if she got married on the testimony of two aidim, she does not need a get. So Rav Sheshes wants to prove that the Mishnah that says by us that Nises Shloi B'Shus, she goes back to the husband, is even the Rabbanan. And the Gemara puts together, like we said, the Gemara equates that if she does not need to get, so then she goes back to the first husband.
Uh-huh.
That's Rav Sheshes' point. And now the Gemara is going to have four. How do you read this first? Let's read the Gemara. The Gemara says, who's the author? Is it Rav Shimon? It can't be Rav Shimon. Because Rav Shimon knows even if there be one aid that Bezdin permitted her to get married, she does not need a get. It must be Rabbanan. And what do you see? That this price is Rabbanan. And they also hold that if it was with two aidim, she does not need a get and she may go back to the first husband. The Gemara is going to have four possible refutations to this pshat. And I think that all of them, I forgot exactly, I think all of them are going to say, I forgot if they made the fourth one, but most of them are going to say that you don't necessarily learn Rav Shimon right. Maybe this second, the whole point is a combination of two prices. That Rav Shimon in the second price, we see that she does not need to get if there was one aid. And maybe the first price is not Rav Shimon talking. It's not Rav Shimon talking, it's Rabbanan, and they also hold that two aidim you don't need to get. That was the cheshbon.
Yeah.
And the Gemara is going to have ways to learn the second price that it doesn't say that. It doesn't say, don't learn that from the second price that Rav Shimon holds that you don't need to get if she got married with one aid. La'olam Rav Shimoni.
This is all going to be four different kashas on Rav Sheshes.
It's going to, and Rav Sheshes is proof, right? The four refutations to Rav Sheshes is proof.
Okay.
La'olam Rav Shimoni, this is number one. La'olam Rav Shimoni, but read the price like this. Rav Shimon Omer means really the first price says Rav Shimon. And the second price, he doesn't say differently. The first price is only Rav Shimon talking. That if she got married with one aid, she does need to get. If she got married with two aidim, she does not need to get. You think the second price says the opposite? It says that Rav Shimon holds even with one aid, you don't need to get. Rav Shimon Omer also bezin bar rasan ki kavanas ish be'isha ubaya get. Al pi aidim ki shelo kavanas ish be'isha v'lo baya get. When the price says before here, Kizoda and Ish B'isha, and then it says later on, Kishigas Ish B'isha, a whole new pshat. What does it mean? We learned before, Zoda and Ish B'isha means that there was intentional relations, a man and a woman with a married woman, a man with a married woman. And what does it mean, Shigas Ish B'isha? That they had relations with a married woman, the shogeg, new pshat, altogether new pshat. Doesn't mean that. Zoda and Ish B'isha means that a man intentionally had relations with a woman, means not that she's married, not a married woman. A man and a woman, not married, they had relations for the purpose of marriage. That he did it intentionally, that a man had intention to marry the woman. With this beer that they had, he had intention to marry her. So is it a marriage? Yes, a marriage.
So don't mean.
Right. So don't you have to say the word Zadon means like kavana. It means intentional. It doesn't mean wicked. Zadon, wicked, doesn't mean wickedness. It means intentional. That a man intentionally had relations with a woman, a pnuya, not a married woman. And he had intention to marry her. Does she need to get that they want to separate? Yes, because they're married. And what does it mean, shigigas ish b'isha? That it was unintentional. It means they didn't have intention for marriage. They had relations. A bachelor with a maiden, that they didn't have intention for marriage. So she does not need a get. They didn't have intention for marriage. And all the Brisa wants to tell you if it needs a get or not. It means the Brisa is coming to Mamish to ask our question, and it says that if Bezdin permitted the woman to get married because there was a one aid, also Bezdin Baruasan, if Bezdin permitted her to get married because there was one witness, then Kizdon Ish B'isha, it's like a man who would have married a woman, nothing to do with nus. A man married a woman, she needs a get? Yes, this woman also needs a get. This woman will need a get from the second husband. And it's really it's not any reasoning, it's not really the same, it's just a simon, a way to say you need a get. And if it was Al Pi Eidim, if she got married with two witnesses who said her husband died, then they consider it like a man would have had relations with a woman, not for the intention of marriage, just plain nus, and she doesn't need a get. And he's saying beferish that here he's saying that if it was one, Reb Shimon is talking and saying if it was got married with one aid, they do need a get, and she cannot go back to the first husband. And if it was with two aidim, then she does not need a get, and she could go back to the first husband. But what do we gain from this shot? That Reb Shimon doesn't argue on the point that if it was married with one aid that she does need a get. So there's no reason to say that the first brisa says Rabbana. It's a lot of people over here. It means that we have to figure out the second brisa. If the second brisa is going to be, Reb Shimon holds that if she got married with one aid, that she does not need a get, then the first brisa must be the Rabbanan. If it's Rabbanan, you see what they hold about when they are two Eidim. And the Gemara is knocking down that you don't see the second brisa of Shimon saying that. On the contrary, Rav Shimon is saying that when do you need to get, when don't you need to get? One aid, if you got married with one aid, you do need to get. And if you got married with two aid, then you don't need to get. So we refuted the proof of Rav Sheshes. That it doesn't say that the whole buildup he made with the two brises together to prove the second brisa, Rav Shimon doesn't hold that the first brisa must be a Rabbanan talking. You don't have that. That was refutation number one. Refutation number two, Rav Ashi Amar. Then He's going to learn the brisa the way we learned it. That the brisa that's talking about the Isser means the way we learned it right away. Like Moshe said, that if it was like his donish bisha, it means they can't go back to married again. It's like the woman who had relations intentionally, she can't go back to her husband. And if it was with a shigas ish that was by mistake, she couldn't go back. And that's all it's saying. Before the Gemara said, on top of that, also idi lo boy get. Since you're comparing it to a zdon ish beisha, so also you see that don't need to get. That part, don't make that diak, don't make that extra diak. He's just telling you this if she's allowed to go back to her husband or not. If she got married with one aid, then so we consider that the same as if a woman would have had relations with somebody intentionally out of marriage, and she's asked to go back to her husband. But I'll be aided. But
I'm sorry, mitzvah al bala, and we're not talking about the second guy.
Right.
We don't care about that.
We're not talking about it.
Teaching that she can't go back to her husband.
Right. And don't learn out that it says, and you don't need to get. That's not what we're talking about. But let's make the comparison as far as one
Just
factor.
look to her relationship to her husband.
Right. And when I don't learn out that she needs to get or not.
Very good.
And if Shimon also holds that she needs to get. And I'll pay them. And if it was with two Aiden, she's like she had relations with Shogig, and she's allowed to go back to her husband. But we're not talking about get at all. So you don't see if Shimon argues on the point of get, and therefore the first brisa could be Rav Shimon. You don't see that as Rabbanan. Amud Beis. Refutation number 3. Ravina Amar, Linyan Korban Katani. We're talking about this issue of Korban again. We're not going to be talking about get, don't derive from anything about a get. We're learning like this. Asu Bezdin Baru Asan, then it's Kizdon Ish Be'isha V'lo Mashi Korban. We're talking about the next point that the Mishnah talks about, does she bring a Korban? This woman, she had relations with a man out of marriage. Does she have to bring a Korban? Because she had relations out of marriage. Misa, and she did it b'shogig. So it says if she got married with one, this is what the Mishnah says, that as much as they were shogig, there's another issue. Did they do it with Bezdin? Did they do al pia Ros Bezdin? Like the whole sugi of Horius. Did she do it because Bezdin said so? So the halach is if you do it al pi Bezdin, not the halach is, this Mishnah holds that if you do it with Bezdin's permission, you don't bring a chatas. If you do it, even if you had good reason to do it, but you didn't do it with Bezdin, so then you do have to bring a korban chatas. That's what the Mishnah says, and that's what the Bryce is saying now. Also Bezdin Barasan, if Bezdin paskin because of their psak, which means they had only one aid, and their psak they gave permission. So then it's halach if kizdon ish b'isha, which means lamashi korban. It's just giving an example to say not bringing a korban. Nothing to do with it. It wasn't amazing, but the same way if a woman would have had relations with a man, a married woman would have had relations with a man, there's no korban because Mason doesn't bring a korban. It's just another way of saying there's no korban. Here it's not because she was amazing. Here she had a shogeg. She had an eidach. Bezdin gave her permission to get married. But she's not going to bring a korban the same way that a mazid doesn't bring a korban. But al pi edim, but if she got married with two witnesses, so then it would be the same halacha as a regular married woman that would have had relations by mistake. That she has to bring a korban. Then she has to bring a korban, and it's nothing to do. Don't make any dukum over here. We're talking about get, no get. It's not saying that. Refutation number 4, final. What is
Rabbanan?
Rabbanan. So this goes back.
It says Rabbi Shimon.
No, the second brisa says Rabbi Shimon. The first brisa doesn't. That was the whole discussion. The first brisa is Rabbi Shimon the author or is Rabbanan the author?
Oh,
if it's Rabbi Shimon, then it's no problem. We know Rabbi Shimon says that. That's in our Mishnah. At least Rabbi Shimon says that if there was two Eidim, she does go back to the first husband.
Yeah.
The question was, is Rabbanan agreeing to that? So we thought we had a right from these two brises because this brisa must be the Rabbanan. It can't be Rabbi Shimon because of the second brisa. That was the Rav Shesh's buildup. That was the structure. Then if I could prove that the brisa is not Rabbi Shimon, it must be the Rabbanan, the first brisa. So the first 3 reputations were saying that you got shot in Rabbi Shimon wrong in the second brisa, and he could be the author of the first brisa. The fourth refutation is saying you're right. As far as Rabbi Shimon, you're right that he does hold idi lo bo yeged. This part you're right. That he does argue and say that even if there was an eid echad, when she goes back to the husband, she doesn't go back to the husband, and she does not need a get. She does not need a get. You're right. But You think therefore the first, you're right, this
And
brisa can't
therefore
be
it must be the Rabbanan.
Rabbanan. And you think the brisa says here, chutz me'eshes sish shenisas al pi bezdin, the only exception who gets a get is the eshes sish that got married with bezdin's permission, and you're right, that's Rabbanan, this part you're right so far, but you want it to be medayik that it only says al pi bezdin, but if she would have gotten married with the Eidim, then she would not need a get. There we could answer that. And that's the fourth refutation over here. You're right. The first brisa is Rabbanan, like you said, but the truth but answer it up like this means edit it a little bit. Put in a vav, put in a little vav over that little vav changes the whole thing. If you go back to the brisa, if you put in a vav, not shenisis, vishenisis. And if you say that it's vishenisis, means there are two cases, two exceptions. The way we have it written, it says only one exception. A woman who got married, a married woman who got married with the testimony of one aid, with Bezdin's permission. But if you put in a vav,
I'm sorry, chutz me'isha.
ish.
Yeah,
If you look at the Amud Aleph over here, so this is the brisa we're quoting.
yeah.
The first brisa, kol ha'raisha b'torah ein tzrichas menu get chutz me'ishes ish shenises al pi Bezdin. So it says the only exception who needs a get is a married woman who got married with Bezdin's permission, which means it was eid echad.
Yeah.
But we're going to put in a vav right here, and the vishanises,
Except for a woman.
except for eshes ish, married woman, and if she got married with Bezdin's permission. What does it mean? And means there are two cases. The first case it's not one big case. It's two cases. If it's two cases, and the second case is that she got married with Bezdin's permission of one aid. So what does it mean? Eshes ish.
And she got married with a base 10.
That's the second case. Except for
So
the
Nishis must be the other case.
right. You got it.
Well, isn't that?
That's
It's a little
it's,
twisted.
yeah, it's very twisted.
Okay. I see.
And
We make it two cases, and one is by LP base 10, and one is by
Two aid.
280.
and the Bryce is saying that both of them do need a get.
Mm.
So those were four refutations
Very
to the
tricky.
Bryce. Yes. So that was what we do. Just I made it in parentheses just to separate it. That Rav Sheshes thought he had a Brysa to prove that the Rabbanan agree she can go back to her husband if she got married with a Waidim. But we refuted it. We had four refutations to the proof. And now we go back to the Sukkah. Now we can start. Now we're starting a Sukkah. This is disconnected everything we said till now. And Rav Sheshes said, of course she can go back to the first husband. What should she have done? Back to the green. Rav Sheshes said that, does anybody argue? If she got married with two Eidim that said her husband died, is there a question that she can go back? Of course she can go back. My have a lot. What should she have done better than that? She had two Eidim. Man and son says she's honest. Of course she can go back to her husband. The Sukkah now is going to talk about that. Even if you didn't get anything till now, you can start again. We're starting now on the base, and then Mara is going to continue to analyze that point. Is it true that you say, "My have a lot of what should you have done better?" And the Gemara is going to ask 6 questions, all the same direction. It's easy Gemara. From here on in, it's easy Gemara. A massive Ula. Ula is the kashan of Sheshes. Mi amrina my have a lot of I'm sorry. What happened over here? I don't know what's happening. Mi amrina my have a lot of you say,
It's my
where are you?
Halile Mayim.
Mi amrina.
Mesivula. Oh,
Yeah.
Miamrina.
Me, I'm reading my have a do we say, what should she have done?
Uh-huh.
Means Rav Sheshes said as follows. What should she have done? She had to wait then. I think everyone has this question. I asked the rabbi or something like that, or I had every right to do it, robe, whatever. Is that a reason that she shouldn't be able to go back to it? What should she have done? I'll bring you, and the Gemara is going to, and Rav Sheshes said that's the reason why she should be able to go back to her husband. What should she have done? She's an honest. And the Gemara is going to ask 6 questions that l'chora we don't say. I'll just zoom out a second. I just made the pink over here. You see, it's going to be again and again the same question. According to you, my have a little mevad, my have a little mevad, my have a little mevad, 6 times. They're going to spring in different cases, and we do throw the book at her. And you could say, what should she have done? Masabula, did you say what should she have done? But tonight we learned the Mishnah. Kasav l'shem malchus, she'en ogenes, l'shem malchus modai, l'shem malchus yavan, the binyan abayis, the chorban abayis. And a get, and a divorce document, is supposed to write the date of the king and the kingdom of which the get is being given. Which is a very important document, and the government looks upon it as a very important document, official document. It has to have the date of the government, of the ruling government, or else it will be considered a chutzpah towards the government. It's called Shlom Malchus. So here it says if they had the date in the get that was dated according to a different system, so it's a partial get. Malchus Shein, again, as Rashi says, means Rome, the Roman government, or L'Shem Malchus Modai, the Median government, or the Greek government, or they counted how many years since the Binyan Beis HaMikdash, or they counted from the Churban Beis HaMikdash. All these ways of counting, dating the get, not according to the way Chazal made. Chazal made, you have to date the get according to the local government. Or they wrote in the wrong location,
Place, yeah.
the place. However, Mizrach because of B'mar because of Mizrach. They were in one place, they wrote the other place. They have to have the location and the date that's written in the get correctly. And she didn't. She got a get that was not a kosher get. And she got married with this get. And then they find out that it's not a good get, that it has the wrong date, it has the wrong system of dating, or it has the wrong place. She loses the new husband, she loses the old husband. That's why I said that's why our Mishnah. What? Same as our Mishnah. Our Mishnah has the whole list over there. She loses ksuba, tonight ksuba. This whole list is called Kol Dracham Meluba. So what now the kasha is, what should she have done? She got to get. But she got to get there. She shouldn't get married. So if you hold that Ma'av Meva is a taina that allows her to go back to her first husband, how come over here it said that you do make the knas against her, even though what could she have done? She got to get. The answer is she should have read the get. Means she says she should have read it and made sure that it's kosher. And she should have gone to the Rav, is this a kosher get? Means nowadays we think a little bit different because every get is given in a bezdin. So they're supposed to know what they're doing. But the halacha, really, the halacha is not such a thing. A husband can give a get, he writes a get and calls to wait them and he gives her the wife a get. And it isn't always kosher. So he's not a bezdin. So she should have taken it to a Rav to see that's a kosher get. So she is held liable. You can't say, what should I have done? You should have taken it to make sure it's a good get before you get married. So that's not a kasha. They're going to be a tax on Avsheshes. Avsheshes said, Mevad, she's an onus. And the Gemara says, I show you a bunch of cases that what should she have done? And Avsheshes is going to answer, she had what to do. She should have read the get, or read it and given it to a chacham to read. Next kasha.
The dates and the dates and the kingships. That's
so she should go to the Rav to make sure that's a kosher get.
Doesn't know enough of that.
So she should go to the Rav. Amar Rav Shila Barashi, Tashma, not a raya.
I thought that we thought that the husband died. This is a different case now.
No, that's different case altogether.
This is just about someone who got divorced.
Someone got divorced with a non-kosher get, then she got married, and then they would look at the get and say, what's happening over here?
And so she should have read. The first answer is she should have checked it out.
Right.
That it was kosher before she got married.
Right. And this is going to be the same pattern, is going to be 6 times. You got this thing is the pattern for the next six Gemaras. The whole thing is going to be, what should she have done? She has what to do. It's not mamash and onus. She could have done something. Avsheshes still holds to the cloud that if she had nothing to do, she's an onus and she doesn't get the consequences. And the Gemara is asking, here you see that she got it, even though she got the consequences, even though she had nothing to do. No, she had what to do. She could have taken it to check it out. Just to Agav, all 6 cases are going to be Kol Dracham Me'eluba. This Mishnah talks about these consequences. This is going to be the kasha 6 times. That we have 6 cases where we say that she gets all the consequences. The Gemara is going to ask, what could she have done? And the Gemara is going to ask her, she had what to do. Kasha number 2. Amar Shili Barashi, Tashma. A person, somebody's brother died without children. He married her. He married the sister-in-law, and there was a co-wife. There were 2 wives. And the halach is once you do your yibum to one, the other one goes free. The other one get married, and she did. The Sarah went out, and she married somebody else. But then it comes out that the first wife, the wife who yibum was done to, became that it comes to verify that she was an islandess. She was sterile. She wasn't able to have children. So that yibum is not a good yibum. And the other tzara is the one who's still yivam l'shuk. She's the one who's obligated to yibum. She didn't get free. It means if you have 2 co-wives and one of them was a kosher yibum, the other one can get married somebody else. But it wasn't a kosher yibum because she's an islandess. So the one who's a tzara, she shouldn't have married out. She's yivam l'shuk. She shouldn't have gone to marry anybody. So it says, she loses both husbands. And this Sarah, who married somebody else, she loses, she doesn't go back to Yibum, and she doesn't go to her husband, and she gets all the consequences. Rashi says it's only according to Rabbi Akiva that the Yivam L'Shuk is a Chai Ve'elav, and otherwise we're not going to be so machmir. But anyway, the question is, why she got all the consequences? What should she have done?
I'm sorry, are we talking about the co-wife now?
Yes, the co-wife got married because she thought
co-wife got married because she thought that the
Yibum was one with the other co-wife.
The widow.
Right, they're both widows. And her co-widow, her co-wife got Yibum, so I can marry somebody else.
It turns out that she was an Yibum.
The one who got married, Yibum was islandess, so she should have been Yibum, and she married somebody else.
And now she
gets the book thrown at her. What should she have done?
Mm-hmm.
Don't mind, then you see that you give her the consequences, even though she had nothing to do. The answer is she had what to do. She should have waited. She should have waited. Maybe she's an make sure that she's not an islandess. How long is she supposed to wait?
3 months. No, I don't know. How do you know?
I don't know. I don't know how long she's supposed to wait. How long is she supposed to wait till it's verified that she's an islandess or not? I don't know. But she should have
10
waited.
years?
I don't know. Till she's 20 without any Simone islandess. If there's a chance that it's
Oh, I see. There's something.
even though we people are not islanders, it's very seldom that someone should be an islandess. The Gemara says this, you can't call it an onus. That's why you can't call it mamash an onus. That's why we throw the book at her, because she could have done something. She could have checked out better. She's still a bit guilty. Not that she's really guilty. We're not saying she's guilty, but you can't say, "My have a little method. What should I have done?" It was mutter to get married. It was mutter to get married, but you can't say, "What should I have done?" It's called a shogeg, but it's not called an onus.
Mhm.
Amar Abaye, Tashma,
Who's the honest? The
the one who married, the one who did Yibum, got Yibum. Two
We
co-wives,
assume that.
two co-wives, one of them did Yibum, and the other one married out. And then the one who did Yibum, it comes out that she was an islandess and it wasn't a good Yibum. And the one who married out
obviously,
should have done Yibum.
She didn't tell her husband that she was not. So
She didn't
maybe
know, she didn't know, she
herself.
didn't know, yeah, she didn't know.
And they never had children. And then he died. And now it comes out that she was an islandess.
You talking, who are you talking about? The second husband, the one that did
First
Yibum?
wife, the wife that's an islandess.
But not only
She
did
got
husband die, she
married.
got married to the Yabam.
Mhm.
She got married to the brother-in-law.
This
No, I
one she
thought the
hasn't been
co-wife
married
got
yet.
married to the other.
No. Two wives, well, man.
I thought that the man married two wives. One was an islandess. He died. And somebody did Yibum with the islandess.
Yes.
So the co-wife was not an islandess.
She married out.
She married out.
And they didn't know that she's an island, that the one who married Yibum was an island.
The one that, and she who got married didn't know that her co-wife was an islandess.
Right.
Okay.
So we're saying the same thing?
Yeah, we're saying the same.
See,
I'm just saying that the islandess never said, or she didn't know
That she's an island.
that she's an islandess, and now it came out after the Yibum.
Right.
Remember, you know that some women don't have kids for 10 years. and then suddenly they have children.
No, but you're saying
That's
there's
not, that's
Simone.
islandess. Islandess is different. Islandess means that she's sterile and she can't have. But a person, if one doesn't have children, it doesn't mean that there wasn't a good Yibum. But if she's an islandess, means she's not capable of having children, then it's not a good Yibum.
You don't know. for years.
So they didn't know,
No,
but then they
no,
found
no,
out.
there's
And here it says
Simone.
they should have
You're
waited.
saying
Yeah,
that
we
like
had
the
the 14 women.
Simone.
It could be Simone don't come right away, but the Simone don't come
And
eventually.
nobody talks about how long you have to wait.
Doesn't say, I mean, I don't know anybody talks. Rashi doesn't say.
Okay.
Amar Abaye, Tashma, another kasha. And again, we're attacking the swallow of
And
my
these are all
Avodah
prices or something?
These are almost nice, I think, even. Kolarai, I think. Kolarai Shamu, Potus was saying. Also, Saras Venisu Veninsu Elu Islandess. They'd say, Mizel, Mizel, Vahola Bracham Elu Ba. There's the din of Tzoras Erva, beginning of the Masechta. There's a thing called an Erva. It means a man had two wives. And he died. One of them was an Erva to his brother. He married his brother's daughter. So that's called the Erva, right? And there's no Yibum. He doesn't do Yibum to his daughter.
Mhm.
And he happened to be a co-wife. So the first mission of Masechta says, they're not,
She's a tzara.
and
Not
therefore,
married, the sister either. I mean, the
so there's no
sister-
Yibum to the sister either. So she went and got married.
Why not?
The husband died,
Right.
and the co-wife is an Erva
Mhm.
to the Yavam.
Co-wife is an Arab.
So there's no Yibum, not to her,
So
and not
she
to the
went and got
Tsar either.
married.
So she went and got married. And then it comes out that the Erva was an islandess.
Besides being a Arab.
Yeah. So she's not in the game. And the one who married out, she's not a married out. She's also Yibam Shuk. She married
Because
out.
the
She
Arab
shouldn't
get
have.
kicked out because she gets kicked out. It's not a factor anymore
Right.
because she's an island.
Right. She's not called the Torah Serva because the Erva was not in the picture at all. The one before spoke about was the case that it was a Kedusha Tos because the first husband didn't know that she's an island. So even if he did know, that's the sugi before. But anyway, the case is that the Sarah married out and she shouldn't have. And we throw a book at her. Saying all these rights that we said that if they would be an Erva, they would pater that Sarah from Yibum also. But Talchut Sarah's Venisu and the Sarahs went and they married out because they're allowed to. But Nimsu Elu islandess, but the Erva, we thought she was an Erva. She is an Erva, but she's also an islandess. But the Sarah who married out Shalom Kedin. So
She
same
should've
similar. It's a woman who's a Yevamos Shuk and she shouldn't have. So we say if that happens, she gets all the consequences. She loses the Yavam, she
So
loses
every
the
time
husband.
there's a tzara, there's no quick moves here.
So that's the most kasha. What should
There's
she have
no
done?
quick moves. There's
Well, just
things
check it
gonna
out.
be-
It's
Well,
unlikely.
it could be
Check it
we
out.
know that she's not in there. It's not an islandess. There are ways to know that she's not an islandess. If she has
Maybe
things
she-
that show that she's not an almond.
Yeah.
But here the question is, what did she do wrong? Fine, name my never. Let's say, what should she have done? And she shouldn't be held with all these consequences against her. The Gemara says again, she should have waited. She should have waited.
So it's almost like the second case.
Mamish, right?
It's just that it's an extra factor.
A different
She even had She even
scenario.
had more of a reason to think she could get married
Why?
because there was an error.
Okay, that's that first case was a different case that they did yibum. It's also this is good. Either they did yibum to a non-erba, or she was an erba. But the case that became an island, this is just as much.
Oh, in the case with the erba, there's no yibum, and there's only the two wives. So
Right.
it's
So there,
it's
so
nullified from everything. There's no yibum at all.
no yibum, right?
But
But
in the first case, there is yibum, but
the yibum was
but he
not.
did it. Yeah. Okay. I see.
So that's already three kashas.
Okay.
Kasha number 4. Amar Rava. Back to the case about Gittin. Amar Rava Tashma. Kasav sofer get leish v'shovel isha. The Tav Nasan get leisha v'shovel ish.
What is a
So there's a get. They're coming to Bezdin to get a divorce.
and then a receipt.
Right. So the husband is going to give the get to the wife. What's the plan? Husband is going to give the get to the wife. The husband is going to pay ksuba, and the woman needs a receipt to give to the husband that she got the ksuba. That's the plan. So they go to the sofa. They want to get divorced. They want to, or they don't want to, but the husband wants to divorce her. So the husband's needs a get, and the wife needs a receipt. And the sofa has to write 2 documents. He writes a get and he writes a receipt, and he's supposed to give the get to the husband.
Don't you usually with wire receipt, you usually have a 2 no?
No, this is where we
You
hired
want-
somebody like Chaim David to do it, and we said, write me a get and write me a receipt. That was the
Right.
idea. You'll give the get to the woman.
You give the get to the husband, and the husband's supposed to give it to the wife.
Okay.
And you give the receipt to the, you give the receipt to the woman, and then when she gets the ksuba from the husband, she'll give him the receipt. That's what's supposed to be.
Oh, I
What's
see. When
bothering
he
you?
gives the get, then he'll get the receipt that she.
When he gives her the get and also the ksuba, he gives her the money. He comes with his money, with his wallet, and he gives her a get, and then he also ksuba, he gives her the ksuba.
So it seems
And now
like
she
the
gives her a
husband,
receipt.
and the husband's the one that made the mistake here.
No, we'll see in a second. What's the problem?
No,
right?
just-
Everything's good. So the sofa mixed it up. The sofa was he maybe it was a good sofa, but it was a shlamazel, and he gave the husband
The receipt.
the receipt, and he gave the wife the get in the
he-
closed
and he gives
envelope, and nobody opened it up. And the husband says to the wife, "Here's your get," and the wife says, "Here's your
Receipt.
receipt," and they go home, and she thinks she's divorced, and then she gets married, and then one day they open up the get, and they see that it's a receipt.
Wow.
Because they got sofa gave the receipt to the
To the
husband, and the husband said, "Here's your get," and it wasn't a get, it's a receipt.
Nice.
And the wife said, "Here's your receipt," and he gave her a get. The husband opens up his envelope, and he sees that he got a get. So she's not divorced, and she got married. So it says that she loses everything. That's the case over here. Because of sofa get the ish v'shovel isha, the sofa, the scribe, he wrote a get for the man to give to the man because he wants to divorce his wife, and he wrote a shover, a receipt for the woman because she wants to give a receipt to her husband when he gives her the ksuba. But the sofa made a mistake. He gave the get to the woman and he gave the receipt to the man, and then they gave then the man and the woman they gave each other the documents that they're supposed to, but it was the wrong document. The man gave his document to the woman, which he thought was a get, really is a receipt, and the woman gave her document to the husband, which he thought is a receipt, really it's a get. Then later on they see that the husband has the get and the woman has the receipt, and she wasn't divorced, but she had gotten married in between. So you can throw all the consequences at her. And if she got married, she can't go back to her husband, and she got to get with her first husband. Why? What she do wrong? This is an easy one. What should she have done?
Should have read it.
She should have read it.
Yeah.
She should have read it. She doesn't even have to go to a chacham for this one. She could have just read it herself. So you'd see if it's a get. You see, you're supposed to read the fine print. People say sign on the dotted line. You're supposed to read what you're signing.
Open up email.
I'm Ravashi Tashma. Ryan number, I forgot what number we're up to. Maybe 5. I'm Ravashi Tashma.
My name, I mean,
What?
what is it?
Why? Name her. Let us say, my Mever. What should she have done? I'm Ravashi Tashma. Shina Shmo Shmo. Shemi That has the wrong name in the get. They put the wrong name. His name, her name, the name of the city, the name of her city. They had some wrong information in the get. So it's possible. She loses both husbands and all these consequences. What should she have done? Simple answer. You buy the like we get this. You should have read the get to see that everything, all the information is right. I'm Ravina Tashma. Right, number 6. Concept beget kereach. Teitza mizeh mizeh v'chol dracham me'elubah. A get kereach we don't have nowadays. It's a kind of a fancy get that is not called. There's a get pashut and a get mukusha. We don't do it nowadays. But there's I think it's for Kohanim that they shouldn't. A Kohen is very dangerous to give a get because he can't take his wife back again. So they shouldn't be hot-headed. They should slow down. So they make a complicated get, and they make it like what do you call that when they fold the paper back and forth, like a fan kind of a thing. So there's a fancy.
But they also.
And they sew it each time,
Sew it.
and you have to sign it. Sign it on there. Sign it. So, and they have to make a signature on each one of the folds. And even though you have to wait, you have to have more. It's a fancy kind of get.
To make sure that the Cohen is really.
That he should have time to
go
calm down.
Yeah.
After it takes an hour and a half, he says, let me think about it again. And nowadays, there's a lot of time to think. They take a long time in business, but really a get doesn't have to have a whole process. The husband takes out a piece of pen and paper and he writes the get. But it made for a Cohen, they should do a get kiryah. But nowadays, they don't do it. But anyway, the halach is if it's missing on the fold, it's missing a signature. So it's supposed to get. It has to have a signature on each fold. It's called a bald get. Get kiryah. It's called a bald get. It's missing a signature. So teitza mizeh and the same
A
thing.
bald get means that it didn't have a signature on one of the folds.
Right, I think so. So over there, it says the same thing. She gets all the consequences. And again, the kasha, what should she have done? And then the boy that she should have read it. So what we have so far, we had Rav Shesha said that there's a taina of what should she have done? And you don't give the consequences what should she have done? And then why had 6 kashas, and all the kashas we answered that there was she had what to do in other cases. But in the case of the 2 Eidim, over there, she has nothing else to do. 2 Eidim came and said the husband died, we don't expect her to do anything else, and therefore Rav Ashi said for sure she's not to go back to the first husband. Rav Papa wanted to do paskin, he wanted to do a machal maisa, he wanted to do an act. He wanted to act upon this svara to say that there was it seems like it was a case history that the woman had 2 Eidim that her husband died, and she got married, and then the husband came back. And the question was, could she go back to her first husband? And her papa said, like Rav Sheshes, that what should she have done? And she could go back to the first husband. Our Mishnah says so. Rav Nachman said it's only Rav Shimon, and Rav Sheshes says it's everybody. And what could she have done?
I'm sorry, these 2 words, what do you, the whole thing was those 2 words?
Which one?
Lamei abad. It's lamei abad.
He wanted to do an act. He wanted to act upon this psak of my Mevad. He wanted to, Allah Lamaisa, he wanted to paskin on the psak of what should she have done.
Oh.
It's good, the words are good.
He wanted to
act upon the psak of what should she have done. What
We
should she
just
have
gave
done?
all these examples of what she should have done.
No, all these examples of more said she should have done. Yeah, but the case of 2 Eidim. Back to the beginning. Back to the beginning. The Rav Sheshes said the case of 2 Eidim that came. Here's Rav Sheshes in the green. I'm Rav Sheshes. Allah Mechal the pligi. No, man is answer. The case where she had 2 Eidim that said her husband died. Of course, she goes back to her first husband if the husband came. Because what should she have done? She's an onus.
He wanted to act on the
And he wanted to say if Sheshes is right, then he's going to pass him like that. And even though the Gemara had 6 kashas, the Gemara had 6 terutzim. That all the other cases where it says Ma'av Mevad, the Gemara said over there was what to do, but over here there's nothing to do. So he should be able to get married. She should be able to go back to her first husband. The Papa wanted to pass him.
Why is he bringing this down? Just why is it coming down again?
Let's learn it. But Papa wanted to act upon this psak and say Ma'av Mevad. He wanted to pass that the woman can go back to her first husband. Papa, we have all these 6 kashas over here that say you don't say Ma'av Mevad. It's not a good enough excuse. Didn't we answer kashas? We had 6 terutzim also. She should have read it. She should have waited. That she knew you could make it with this. We're going to rely on these. The answers means even though it's a terrace, but it's a terrace. The kasha maybe is a good kasha. So he doesn't want to rely on Avsheshus, and he wanted that she should not go back to her first husband.
What's Niku?
Let us stand. Are we going to stand and rely? We're going to stand up and rely on these answers? No, we shouldn't rely on these answers. So therefore, she shouldn't go back to the first husband.
Even on the
Even with
Even with 2 Eidim. Like Rav Nachman was sounding like. Rav Nachman says only Rav Shimon.
He's
I
being
think
made
he's being mocked. He's saying she can't go back to her first husband. Even though she had 2 Eidim to get married with, she cannot go back to her first husband.
I thought we said what there was the onus.
That's what Rav Shesha said. But then we show a lot of
I thought he
other
wanted to
cases of
show
what
that he
Shishya
wanted
have
to
done.
show like Rav.
What?
I thought he wanted to show like Rav Shesha.
We attacked Rav Shesha 6 times.
Yeah,
We defended him 6 times. But the Gemara is not happy with the defense.
oh, okay.
Maybe we don't say what should she have done. That's not enough of a reason to say that she can get married back to the first husband. A little more Gemara. Amar Rabashi, L'kol lo chashina. What if, a new case, new Gemara, made 2007, new Gemara. What happens if the husband didn't come back, but there's a rumor that he's alive? A rumor that she got married, either one day, 2 of them, and then there's a rumor that he's still living. And that we stop her from being with the second husband. There's a rumor. We're not cautious for a rumor. Even if the rumor comes out the husband's alive, you're not cautious. If he comes, he comes. If he doesn't come, she's allowed to stay with the second husband. Hey, Carla, what kind of a rumor? Elam would call it the boss in the suing after she already got married. That's the case. After she got married. Rabashi,
What does Carla mean?
which call? Which rumor?
Oh.
A rumor after she got married. Elam would call it the boss in the suing a rumor after she got married. Rabashi said already, you're not cautious for a rumor after marriage. Rabashi, top of the next page. The bus in the suah lo chashinan. Any rumor after marriage, you're not cautious for. Rashi says if there was a Kohen married a woman, and then a rumor comes out, she was once a grusha. She denies it, but she says that there's a rumor going out that she once was divorced, but we didn't verify it yet. But it's a rumor. Do you make him get divorced? No. If the rumor comes out after marriage, if it's before marriage, maybe we'll look into it. But we're not going to cause them to separate because of rumor. So we know that after a rumor doesn't. So here also, she got married with the testimony, either 1 or 2, that her husband died. Even if the rumor comes that he's alive, it's not a reason. You might think that since the whole issue started before she got married, means in the case of the, let's say Rashi's case, that the Kohen married a woman and then now after marriage comes out and called that she was a grusha. So we didn't hear about it before the marriage. So that's called the cold bus in the sun. It's called a rumor after marriage. But here the issue is her husband alive was the issue before the marriage. And we thought we had testimony that he's dead. But the issue came before, is he alive or not? And therefore you might think that even though now the call comes after marriage that he's alive, it's a continuation of what happened before the marriage. And the call before the marriage we are choshesh for. Kamash Malan, that since we had testimony, either 1 or 2, that he died, even though there's a rumor now after the marriage that he's alive, we're not choshesh for. She's allowed to stay married until the husband comes.
But even if it's 1-8.
I think so.
It's a kula and a kula.
I think so. Yes, go ahead, everybody. And we'll be continuing with Tehillim in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
1-8, yes. It's so strong.